Hey crew, it's Pitt and I am back with some more ancient lore. Today we are diving back into the mythology of Ireland with gods and fighting men. We are on part 1, book 4, part 3 or 4, I'm not sure. There are several parts of part 1, book 4. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points that are brought to light by the text. It's not the format for everyone, but some people seem to find enjoyment in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. I have not, as of yet, had a whole lot to add to the discussion as we read through this. It is mainly me learning about things and sharing that with you, so we are going to read into the record great parts of this again today. With that being said, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in the terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above and the box below, along with the original source material, so that you can get a better understanding of why I say the things that I do. With that being said, we are going to dive in and continue our exploration. I don't know how many parts we're going to get through today. We will just wing it as we go along. Part 1, Book 4, Etain. And again, I do not have a grasp of the Gaelic language. I do not know the subtleties, and so many of the pronunciations I am probably going to get wrong. If that is too much for you, be blessed elsewhere. And as to Etain, that some said was the daughter of Manannan, but some said was the Morrigu herself. There was a stone belonging to her that was called Cathair Etain, and if anyone would sit on that stone, he would be in danger of losing his wits, and that anyone who would sit on it 3 times would lose them forever. And people whose wits were astray would make their way to it, and mad dogs would come from all parts of the country and would flock around it. And then they would go into the sea, to Eina's place there. But those that did cures and herbs said she had power over the whole body, and she used to give gifts of poetry and of music, and she often gave her love to men, and they called her Leanan Seed, the sweetheart of the seed. And it was no safe thing to offend Eina, for she was very revengeful. Oliam, king of Ireland, killed her brother one time, and it is said that she did. She made a great yew tree by enchantment beside the river Meg in Luminic, and she put a little man in it, playing sweet music on a harp. And Olio's son was passing the river with his stepbrother, and they saw the tree and heard sweet music from it. And first they quarreled as to which of them would have the little harper, and then they quarreled about the tree. And they asked a judgment from Olio, and he gave it for his own son. And it was the bad feeling about that judgment that led to the battle of Magmacrombe, and Olio and his 7 sons were killed there. And so Eina got her revenge. Well, that is a very long way to go about getting revenge, right? Why not just drown the kid when he went to go get it? Part 1, Book 4, Eobail. And Eobail, another woman of the seed, made her dwelling place in Craigleath. And at the time of the battle of Clorambath, she set her love on a young man of Munster, Dublang o Artigan, that had been sent away in disgrace by the king of Ireland. But before the battle he came back to join with Murcod, the king's son, to fight for the Gael. And Eobail came to stop him, and when he would not stop with her, she put a druid covering about him, the way no one could see him. And he went where Murcod was fighting, and he made a great attack on the enemies of Ireland, and struck them down on every side. And Murcod looked around him and said, "It seems to me I hear the sound of blowings of Dublag on Artigan, but I do not see himself." Then Dublang threw off the druid covering that was about him, and he said, "I will not keep this covering upon me when you cannot see me through it. And come now across the plain where Eobail is," he said, "for she can give us news of the battle." And so they went where she was, and she bade them both to quit the battle, for they would lose their lives in it. But Murcod had said to her, "I will tell you a little true story," he said, "that fear for my own body will never make me change my face. And if we fall," he said, "the strangers will fall with us, and it is many a man will fall by my own hand, and the Gael will be sharing their strong places." "Stop with me, Dublang," she said then, "and you will have 200 years of happy life with myself." I will not give up Murcad, he said, or my own good name for silver or gold. And there was anger on Eobel when he said that, and she said, Murcad will fall, and you yourself will fall, and your proud blood will be on the plain tomorrow. And they went back into the battle and got their death there. And it was Eobel gave the golden harp to the son of Midhir, the time he was getting his learning at the school of the Cid in Connacht, and he heard his father had got his death by the king of Lochlann. And whoever heard the playing of that harp would not live long after it. And Midhir the son went where the 3 sons of the king of Lochlann were, and played on his harp for them, and they died. It was that harp Cuchulainn heard the time his enemies were gathering against him at Muirthing, and he knew by it that his life was near its end. And the next part 1, Book 4, Midhir and Etain. And Midhir took for a hill for himself, and his wife Fumach was with him there, and his daughter Bree. And Leith, son of Chenkar of Calu, was the most beautiful among the young men of the Cid of Ireland at the time, and he loved Bree, Midhir's daughter. And Bree went out with her young girls to meet him one time at the grave of the daughters beside Timir. And Leith came, and his young men along with him, till he was on the hill of the after repentance. And they could not come nearer to one another because of the slingers on Midhir's hill that were answering one another till those spears were as many as a swarm of bees on a day of beauty. And Cuchulainn, Leith's servant, got a sharp wound from them, and he died. Then the girl turned back to Midhir's hill, and her heart broke in her, and she died. And Leith said, Although I am not let come to this girl, I will leave my name with her. And the bill was called Bree Leith from that time. After a while, Midhir took Etain to be his wife, and there was great jealousy on Fumach, the wife he had before, when she saw the love that Midhir gave to Etain, and she called to the druid, Bresel at Tarlaim, to help her, and he put spells on Etain the way Funach was able to drive her away. And when she was driven out of Bree Leith, Angus Og, son of the Dagda, took her into his keeping. And when Midhir asked her back, he would not give her up, and when he brought her about with him to every place he went, and wherever they rested, he made a sunny house for her, and put sweet-smelling flowers in it, and he made invisible walls about it, so that no one could see through, and that could not be seen. But when news came to Fumach that Etain was so well cared for by Angus, anger and jealousy came on her again, and she searched her mind for a way to destroy Etain altogether. And it is what she did. She persuaded Midhir and Angus to go out and meet one another and to make peace, for there had been a quarrel between them ever since the time Etain was sent away. And when Angus was away from Brún na Bóinne, Fumach went and found Etain there, in her sunny house, and she turned her with druid spells into a fly, and then she sent a blast of wind into the house that swept her through the window. But as Midhir and Angus, they waited a while for Fumach to come and join them, and when she did not come, they were uneasy in their minds, and Angus hurried back to Brún na Bóinne. And when he found the sunny house empty, he went in search of Fumach, and it was along with Tarlaim, the druid, he found her, and he struck her head off there and then. For 7 years Etain was blown to and fro through Ireland in great misery. At last she came to the house of Etar, of Inverkeithmain, where there was a feast going on, and she fell from a beam of the roof into the golden cup that was beside Etar's wife. And Etar's wife drank her down with the wine, and at the end of the 9 months she was born again as Etar's daughter. And she had the same name as before, Etain, and she was reared as a king's daughter, and there were 50 young girls, daughters of princes, brought up with her to keep her company. And it happened one day, Etain and all the rest of the young girls were out bathing in the bay at Inverkeithmain, and they saw from the water a man with very high looks coming toward them over the plain, and he riding a bay horse with a mane and tail curled. A long green cloak he had on him, and a shirt woven with threads of red gold, and a brooch of gold that reached across his shoulders on each side. And he had on his back a shield of silver with a rim of gold and a boss of gold, and in his hand a sharp-pointed spear covered with rings of gold from hill to socket. Fair yellow hair he had coming over his forehead, and it bound with a golden band to keep it from loosening. And when he came near them, he got down from his horse and sat down on the bank, and it is what he said. It is here Etain is today, at the mound of fair women. It is among little children is her life on the strand of Imber Kekmain. It is she healed the eye of the king from the well of Luk de Lig. It is she was swallowed in a heavy drink by the wife of Etar. Many great battles will happen for your sake to Etain of Mid. Destruction will fall upon the seed, and war of thousands of men. And when he had said that, he vanished, and no one knew where he went, and they did not know the man that had come to them was Midhir of Brilieth. And when Etain was grown to be a beautiful young woman, she was seen by Eochaid Feilig, High King of Ireland, and this is the way that happened. He was going, one time, over the fair green of Brilieth, and he saw at the side of the well a woman with a bright comb of gold and silver, and she was washing in a silver basin, having 4 golden birds on it, and a little bright purple stone set in the rim of the basin. A beautiful purple cloak she had, and silver fringes to it, and a gold brooch, and she had on her dress a green silk with a long hood, embroidered in red gold, and wonderful clasp of gold and silver on her breast and on her shoulder. The sunlight was falling on her, so that the gold and green silk were shining out. 2 plaits of hair she had, 4 locks in each plait, and a bead at the point of every lock. And the color of her hair was like yellow flags in summer, or like red gold after it rubbed. There she was, letting down her hair to wash it, and her arms out through the sleeve holes of her shift. Her soft bands were as white as snow of a single night, and her eyes as blue as any blue flower, and her lips as red as the berries of the rowan tree, and her body as white as the foam of a wave. The bright light of the moon was in her face, the highness of pride in her eyebrows, a dimple of delight in each of her cheeks, the light of wooing in her eyes. And when she walked, she had a step that was steady and even, like the walk of a queen. And Eochaid sent his people to bring her to him, and he asked her name, and she told her name was Etain, daughter of Etar, king of the riders of the seed. And Eochaid gave her his love, and he paid the bride price, and brought her home to Temer as his wife, and there was a great welcome before her there. And after a while there was a great feast made at Temer, and all the chief men of Ireland came to it, and it lasted from the fortnight before Samhain to the fortnight after it. And King Eochaid's brother, Ailill, that was afterwards called Ailill, Anglanach, of the only fault, came to the feast. And when he saw his brother's wife Etain, he fell in love with her on the moment, and through the length of the feast he was not content, unless he could be looking at her. And a woman, the daughter of Luk de Lamdir, of the Red Hand, took notice of it, and she said, "What far thing are you looking at, Ailill? It is what I think, that to be looking the way you are doing is a sign of love." Then Ailill checked himself and did not look towards Etain any more. But when the feast was at an end and the gathering broken up, great desire and envy came on Ailill, so that he fell sick, and they brought him to a house in Tephia. And he stopped there through the length of a year, and he was wasting away. But he told no one the cause of his sickness. And at the end of the year Eochaid came to visit his brother, and he passed his hand over his breast, and Ailill let out a groan. "What way are you?" said Eochaid then. "Are you getting any easier? For you must not let this illness come to a bad end." "By my word," said Ailill, "it is not easier I am, but worse and worse every day and every night." "What is it that ails you?" said Eochaid, "and what is it that is coming against you?" "By my word, I cannot tell you that," said Ailill. "I will bring one here that will know the cause of your sickness," said the king. And with that he sent Factna, his own physician, to Ailill. And when he came, he passed his hand over Ailill's heart, and that he groaned again. "This sickness will not be your death," said Factna then, "and I know well what it comes from. It is either from the pains of jealousy, or from love you have given and that you have not found a way out of." But there was shame on Ailill, and he would not confess to the physician what he said was right. So Factna went away then and left him. As to King Eochaid, he went away to visit all the provinces of Ireland that were under his kingship, and he left Etain after him. And it is what he said. Good Etain, he said, take tender care of Ailill so long as he is living. And if he should die from us, make a sodden grave for him, and raise a pillar stone over it, and write his name on it in Ogham. And with that he went away on his journey. One day now, Etain went into the house where Ailill was living in his sickness, and they talked together, and then she made a little song for him, and it is what she said. What is it ails you, young man? For it is a long time you are wasted with this sickness, and it is not the hardness of the weather that has stopped your light footstep. And Ailill answered her in the same way, and he said, I have good cause for my hurt. The music of my own harp does not please me. There is no sort of food as pleasant to me, and so I am wasted away. Then Etain said, Tell me what it is ails you, for I am a woman that is wise. Tell me, is there anything that would cure you, or the way I may help you to it? And Ailill answered her, O kind, beautiful woman, it is not good to tell a secret to a woman, but sometimes it may be known through the eyes. And Etain said, Though it is bad to tell a secret, yet it ought to be told now, or how can help be given to you? And Ailill answered, My blessing on you, fair-haired Etain. It is not fit I am to be spoken with. My wits have been no good help to me. My body is a rebel to me. All Ireland knows, O king's wife, there is a sickness in my head and in my body. And Etain said, If there is a woman of the fair-faced women of Ireland tormenting you in this way, she must come to you here if it pleases you. And it is I myself will woo her for you, she said. And then Ailill said to her, Woman, it would be easy for you yourself to put my sickness from me. And my desire, he said, is a desire that is as long as a year. But it is love given to an echo, the spending of grief on a wave, a lonely fight with a shadow. That is what my love and my desire have been to me. And it is then that Etain knew what sickness that was on him, and it was a heavy trouble to her. But she came to him every day to tend him, and to make ready his food, and to pour water over his hands, and all she could do she did for him, and it was a grief for her, he to wither away and to be lost for her sake. And at last one day she said to him, Rise up, Ailill, son of a king, man of high deeds, and I will do your healing. And then he put his arms about her, and she kissed him, and she said, Come at the morning of tomorrow, at the break of day, to the house outside the dun, and I will give you all your desire. That night Ailill lay without sleep until the morning was at hand. And at the very time he should have risen to go to her, it was at that time his sleep settled down upon him, and he slept on till the full light of day. But Etain went to the house outside the dun, and she was not long there when she saw a man coming towards her, having the appearance of Ailill, sick and tired and worn. But when he came near, she looked closely at him, and she saw it was not Ailill that was in it. Then he went away, and after she had waited a while, she herself went back into the dun. And it was then Ailill awoke, and when he knew the morning bad had passed by, he would sooner have had death than life, and he fretted greatly. And Etain came in then, and he told her what had happened to him, and she said, Come tomorrow to the same place. But the same thing happened the next day, and when it happened on the third day, and the same man came to meet Etain, she said to him, It is not at you at all I come to meet here, and why is it that you come to meet me? And as to him I came to meet, she said, Indeed it is not for gain or through lightness I bade him to come to me, but to heal him of the sickness he is lying under for my sake. And then the man said, It would be more fitting for you to come to meet me than any other one. For in the time long ago, he said, I was your first husband and your first man. What is it that you are saying? She said, and who are you yourself? It is easy to tell that, he said. I am Midhir of Bríleith. And what parted us if I was your wife? Said Etain. It was through Fumark's sharp jealousy and through the spells of Bresel et Tralim, the druid, we were parted. And you will come away with me now? He said. But Etain said, "It is not for a man whose kindred is unknown I will give up the High King of Ireland." And Midhir said, "Surely it was I myself that put that great desire on you for you on Aliel, and it was I hindered him from going to meet you, the way you might keep your good name." And she went back to Aliel's house. She found his sickness was gone from him and his desire. And she told him all that had happened, and he said, "It has turned out well for us both. I am well of my sickness, and your good name is not lessened." "We give thanks to our gods for that," said Etain, "for we are well pleased to have it so." And just at that time Eochaid came back from his journey, and they told him the whole story, and he was thankful to his wife for the kindness she had shown to Aliel. Really? It was a good while after that. There was a great fair held at Midhir, and Etain was out on the green looking at the games and the races. And she saw a rider coming towards her, but no one could see him but herself. And when he came near, she saw he had the same appearance as that man who came and spoke with her and the young girls the time they were out in the sea at Invermecmain. And when he came up to her, he began to sing words to her that no one could hear but herself. And it is what he said. "O beautiful woman, will you come with me to the wonderful country that is mine? It is pleasant to be looking at the people there, beautiful people without any blemish. Their hair is of the color of the flag flower. Their fair body is as white as snow. The color of the foxglove is on every cheek. The young never grow old there. The fields and the flowers are as pleasant as looking at the blackbird's eggs. Warm, sweet streams of mead and of wine flow through that country. There is no care and no sorrow in any person. We see others, but we ourselves are not seen. Though the plains of Ireland are beautiful, it is little you would think of them after our great plain. Though the ale of Ireland is heady, and the ale of the great country is still more heady. O beautiful woman, if you come to my proud people, it is the flesh of pigs, newly killed, I will give you for food. It is ale and new milk I will give you for drink. It is feasting you will have with me there. It is a crown of gold you will have upon your hair, O beautiful woman." "And will you come there with me, Etain?" he said. But Etain said she would not leave Eochaid, the High King. "Will you come if Eochaid gives you leave?" Midhir said then. "I will do that," said Etain. One day, after that time, Eochaid, the High King, was looking out from his palace at Midhir, and he saw a strange man coming across the plain. Yellow hair he had, and eyes blue and shining like the flame of a candle. A blue candle, huh? And a purple dress on him, and his hand a 5-pronged spear, and a shield having gold knobs on it. He came up to the king, and the king bade him welcome. "Who are you yourself?" he said, "and what are you come for? For you are a stranger to me." "If I am a stranger to you, you are no stranger to me, for I have known you this long time," said the strange man. "What is your name?" said the king. "It is nothing very great," said he. "I am called Midhir of Bryd Leith." "What is it that brings you here?" said Eochaid. "I am here to play a game of chess with you," said the stranger. "Are you a good player?" said the king. "A trial will tell you that," said Midhir. "The chessboard is in the queen's house, and she is in her sleep at this time," said Eochaid. "That is no matter," said Midhir, "for I have with me a chessboard as good as your own." And with that he brought out his chessboard, and it made of silver and precious stones, shining in every corner of it. And then he brought out the chessmen, and they made of gold, from a bag that was of shining gold threads. "Let us play now," said Midhir. "I will not play without a stake," said the king. "What stake shall we play for?" said Midhir. "We can settle that after the game is over," said the king. That's dumb. They played together then, and Midhir was beaten, and it is what the king asked of him, 50 brown horses to be given to him. And then they played the second time, and Midhir was beaten again, and this time the king gave him 4 hard things to do: to make a road over one lamrade, and to clear mead of stones, and to cover the district of Tethra with rushes, and the district of Darbrek with trees. So Midhir brought his people from Bryd Leith to do these things, and it is hard work they had doing them. And Yokade used to be out watching them, and he took notice that when the men of the seed yoked their oxen, it was by the neck and shoulder they used to yoke them, and not by the forehead and the head. And it was after Yokade taught his people to yoke them that way, he was given the name of Yokadarium, that is, of the plow. And when all was done, Midhir came to Yokade again, looking thin and wasted enough with the dint of the hard work he had been doing. And he asked Yokade to play the third game with him. Yokade agreed, and it was settled as before, the stake to be settled by the winner. And it was Midhir won the game that time, and when the king asked him what he wanted, "It is Etain, your wife, I want," said he. "I will not give her to you," said the king. "All I will ask then," said Midhir, "is to put my arms around her and to kiss her once." "You may do that," said the king, "if you will wait till the end of the month." So Midhir agreed to that, and they went away for that time. At the end of the month, he came back again and stood in the great hall at Tamar, and no one had ever seen him look so comely as he did that night. And Yokade had all his best fighting men gathered in the hall, and he shut all the doors of the palace when he saw Midhir come in, for fear he would try to bring Etain by force. "I am come to be paid what is due to me," said Midhir. "I have not been thinking of it up until this time," said Yokade, and there was anger on him. "You promised me Etain, your wife," said Midhir, and the redness of shame came on Etain when she heard that, but Midhir said, "Let there be no shame on you, Etain, for it is through the length of a year I have been asking your love, and I have offered you every sort of treasure and riches, and you refused to come to me till such a time as your husband would give you leave." "It is true I said that," said Etain. "I will go if Yokade gives me up to you." "I will not give you up," said Yokade. "I will let him do no more than put his arms around you in this place, as was promised him." "I will do that," said Midhir. And with that he took his sword in his left hand, and he took Etain in his right arm, and kissed her. All the armed men in the house made a rush at them then, but he rose up through the roof, bringing Etain with him. And when they rushed out of the house to follow him, all they could see was two swans, high up in the air, linked together by a chain of gold. There was great anger on Yokade then, and he went and searched all through Ireland, but there were no tidings of them to be had, for they were in the houses of the seed. And it was the Brug of Angus on the Boyne. They went first, and after they had stopped there a while, they went to the hill of Seed at Connacht. And there was a serving maid with Etain at that time, Cruachan Crodurk her name was, and she said to Midhir, "Is this your own place we are in?" "It is not," said Midhir. "My own place is nearer to the rising of the sun." She was not well pleased to stop there when she heard that, and Midhir said to quiet her, "It is your own name will be put on this place from this out," and the hill was called the Hill of Cruachan from that time. Then they went to Brileath, and Etain's daughter Essa came to them there, and she brought 100 of every sort of cattle with her. And Midhir fostered her for 7 years, and all through that time Yokade the High King was making a search for them. But at last Codal of the withered breast took 4 rods of yew and wrote Oghams on them, and through them and through his enchantments he found out that Etain was in Midhir in Brileath. So Yokade went there and made an attack on the place, and he was for 9 years besieging it, and Midhir was driving him away. And then his people began digging through the hill, and when they were getting near to where Etain was, Midhir sent 3 times 20 beautiful women, having all of them the appearance of Etain. And he bade the king choose her out from among them, and the first he chose was his own daughter, Essa. But then Etain called him, and he knew her, and he brought her home to Tamar. And Yokade gave his daughter Essa her choice of a place for herself, and she chose it and made a rath there. That got the name of Rath Essa, and from it she could see 3 notable places, the Hill of the Seed in Broga, and the Hill of the Hostages in Tamar, and Dun Crimthane in Bianader. But there was great anger on Midhir and his people because of their hill being attacked and dug into, and it was in revenge for that insult they brought Conaire, High King of Ireland, that was grandson of Yokade and Etain, to his death afterwards at the Derga's end. Part 1, Book 4, Manannan. Now, as to Manannan the proud, son of Lear, after he made places for the rest of the Tuatha De Danann to live in, he went away out of Ireland himself, and some said he was dead, and that he got his death by Ulian Fearbeg of the Red Edge in battle. And it is what they said, that the battle was fought at Magculian, and that Manannan was buried, standing up on his feet. And no sooner was he buried than a great lake burst up under his feet in the place that was the Red Bog till that time. And the lake got the name of Loch Orbson, from one of the names of Manannan. And it was said that Red Bob was glad, and many women were sorry at that battle. But he had many places of living, and he was often heard of in Ireland after. It was he sent a messenger to Etain, mother of Conair, the high king, the time she was hidden in the cowherd's house. And it was he brought up Deirdre's children in Etain of the apple trees, and it was said of that place, a house of peace is in the hill of the seed in Etain. And it was he taught Daniwad of the Fianna the use of weapons, and it was he taught Cuchulainn the use of the gay bolg. And some said it was he that was Deirdre's father, and that he brought up Concobar, king of Ulster, to the place she was hidden. And he, running with the appearance of a hare before the hounds of the men of Ulster to bring them there. And it is what they say, that the time Concobar had brought the sons of Uisnech to Emain Macha, they could not come at them to kill them because of their bravery. It was to Manannan he went for help. And Manannan said he would give him no help, for he had told him at the time he brought Deirdre away that he would be the cause of the breaking up of his kingdom, and he took her away in spite of him. But Concobar asked him to put blindness for a while on the sons of Uisnech, or the whole army would be destroyed with their blows. So after a while he consented to that, and when the sons of Uisnech came out against the army of Ulster, the blindness came on them, and it was at one another they struck, not seeing who was near them, and it was by one another's hands they fell. But more say Manannan had no hand in it, and that it was Cathbad the Druid put a sea about them, and brought them to their death by his enchantments. And some say Cuchulainn the smith gave his name to Cuchulainn afterwards. It was Manannan himself, for he had many shapes. Anyway, before Cuchulainn came to Ulster, he was living in the island of Falga. That was one of Manannan's places. And one time, before Concobar came into the kingdom, he went to ask advice of a druid, and the druid bade him to go to the island of Falga, and ask Cuchulainn, the smith he would find there, to make arms for him. So Concobar did so, and the smith promised to make a sword and a spear and a shield for him. And while he was working at them, Concobar went out one morning early to walk on the strand, and there he saw a sea woman asleep on the shore. And he put bonds on her in her sleep, the way she would not make her escape. But when she awoke and saw what had happened, she asked him to set her free. "I am Teobal," she said, "one of the queens of the sea, and bid Cuchulainn," she said, "that is making your shield for you, to put my likeness on it and my name about it. And whenever you go into battle with that shield, the strength of your enemies will lessen, and your own strength and the strength of your people will increase." So Concobar let her go, and bade the smith do as she had told him. And when he went back to Ireland, he got the victory whenever he brought out the shield. And he sent for Cuchulainn then, and offered him a place on the plains of Muirthemne. And whether he was or was not Manannan, it is likely he gave Cuchulainn good teaching the time he stopped with him there, after killing his great dog. Manannan had good hounds one time, but they went hunting after a pig that was destroying the whole country and making a desert of it. And they followed it till it came to a lake, and there it turned on them, and no hound of them escaped alive, but they were all drowned or maimed. And the pig made for an island then. They got the name of Macdunas, the pig's island afterwards, and the name got the name of Loch Conn, the lake of the hounds. And it was through Manannan, the wave of Tuig, one of the three great waves of Ireland, got its name. And this is the way that happened. There was a young girl of the name Twag. A fosterling of Conair, the High King, was raised in Timor, and a great company of the daughters of the kings of Ireland were put about her to protect her, the way she would be kept for a king's asking. But Manannan sent fair Ferdinand of the Tuatha de Danann, that was a pupil of his own and a druid, in the shape of a woman of his own household. And he went where Tuag was, and sang a sleep spell over her, and brought her away to Inverglas. And there he laid her down while he went looking for a boat, that he might bring her away in her sleep to the land of the ever-living women. But a wave of the flood tide came over the girl, and she was drowned, and Manannan killed Feridad in his anger. And one time Manannan's cows came up out of the sea at Baal Cronin, 3 of them, a red, a white, and a black, and the people that were there saw them standing on the strand for a while, as if thinking, and then they all walked up together, side by side, from the strand. And at that time there were no roads in Ireland, and there was great wonder on the people when they saw a good, wide road ready before the 3 cows to walk on. And when they got about a mile from the sea, they parted. The white cow went to the northwest, towards Luminich, and the red cow went to the southwest, and on round the coast of Ireland, and the black cow went to the northeast, towards Lismore, in the district of Port Liarge, and a road opened before each of them that is to be seen to this day. And some say it was Manannan sent Finn and the Fianna in the form of the Gilla de Care, the bad servant, and brought them away to the land under wave. Anyway, he used to often go hunting with them on Crocani, and sometimes he came to their help. Part 1, Book 4, Manannan at Play. And it was he went playing tricks through Ireland a long time after that again, the time he got the name of O'Donnell Cairn. And it is the way that it happened. Aod Dub O'Donnell was holding a feast one time in Bel Etha, and his people were boasting of the goodness of his house and of his musicians. And while they were talking, they saw a clown coming towards them, old striped clothes he had, in a puddle, water splashing in his shoes, and his sword sticking out naked behind him, and his ears through an old cloak that was over his head. And in his hand he had 3 spears of hollywood, scorched and blackened. He wished O'Donnell good health, and O'Donnell did the same to him, and asked where he came from. "It is where I am," he said. "I slept last night at Dunmanhide, of the king of Alban. I am a day in Illy, a day in Siontir, a day in Raclian, a day in the watchman's seat in Sliafiod. A pleasant rambling wandering man I am. And it is with you, it is with yourself I am now, O'Donnell," he said. "Let the gatekeeper be brought to me," said O'Donnell. And when the gatekeeper came, he asked was it he let in this man, and the gatekeeper said he did not, and that he had never saw him before. "Let him off, O'Donnell," said the stranger, "for it was as easy for me to come in as it will be for me to go out again." There was wonder on them all then, any man to have come into the house without passing the gate. The musicians began playing their music then, and all the best musicians of the country were there at the time, and they played very sweet tunes on their harps. But the strange man called out, "By my word, O'Donnell, there was never a noise of hammers beating on iron in any bad place was so bad to listen to as this noise your people are making." With that he took a harp, and he made music that would put women in their pains and wounded men after a battle into a sweet sleep. And it is what O'Donnell said: "Since I first heard talk of music in the sea that is played in the hills and under the earth below us, I never heard better music than your own. And it is a very sweet player you are," he said. "One day I am sweet, another I am sour," said the clown. Then O'Donnell bade his people to bring him up to sit near himself. "I have no mind to do that," he said. "I would sooner be as I am, an ugly clown making sport for high-up people." Then O'Donnell sent him down clothes, a hat, and a striped shirt and a coat, but he would not have them. "I have no mind," he said, "to let high-up people be making a boast of giving them to me." They were afraid then he might go from them, and they put 20 armed horsemen and 20 men on foot to hold him back from leaving the house, and as many more outside at the gate, for they knew him not to be a man of this world. "What are these men for?" said he. "They are to keep you here," said O'Donnell. "By my word, it is not with you I will be eating my supper tomorrow," he said, "but at Connachany, or a Sagan, son of Earlias, and Desmumain. If I find you giving one stir out of yourself between this and morning, I will knock you into a round lump there on the ground," said O'Donnell. But at that the stranger took up the harp again, and he made the same sweet music as before. And when they were all listening to him, he called to the men outside, "Here, I am coming, and watch me well now, or you will lose me." And when the men that were watching the gate heard that, they lifted up their axes to strike him. But in their haste it was at one another they struck, till they were lying stretched in blood. And then the clown said to the gatekeeper, "Let us ask 20 cows and 100 of free land of O'Donnell as a fee for bringing his people back to life. And take this herb," he said, "and rub it in the mouth of each man of them, and he will rise up whole and well again." So the gatekeeper did that, and he got the cows and the land from O'Donnell, and he brought all the people to life again. Now, at that time, Sagan, son of the Earl, was holding a gathering on the green in front of his dun, and he saw the same man coming towards him, and dressed in the same way, and the water splashing in his shoes. But when he asked the man who he was, he gave himself the name of a learned man, Duartane O'Dartanain, and he said it was by Esrud that he was come, and by Cius Corian, and from that Corsleeve into Maglorg of the Dagda, and into the district of High Conel Gabra, till they come to yourself, he said, by Cruachan of Magai. And so they brought him into the house, and gave him wine for drinking, and water for washing his feet, and he slept till the rising of the sun on the morrow. And at that time Sagan, son of the Earl, came to visit him, and he said, "It is a long sleep you had, but there is no wonder in that, and your journey is so long yesterday. But I often heard of your learning in books and your skill on the harp, and I would like to hear you this morning," he said. "I am good in those arts indeed," said the stranger. So they brought him a book, and he could not read a word of it, and then they brought him a harp, and he could not play any tune. "It is likely your reading and music are gone from you," said Sagan, and he made a little ran of him, saying it was a strange thing, Duartane O'Duartane, that had such a great name, not to be able to read a line of a book, or even to remember one. But when the stranger heard how he was being mocked at, he took up the book and read from the top to the bottom, and the page very well in a sweet-sounding voice, and after that he took the harp and played and sang the same way he did at O'Donnell's house the day before. "It is a very sweet man of learning you are," said Sagan. "One day I am sweet, and another day I am sour," said the stranger. And they walked out together to Connachany. But while they were talking there, the stranger was gone all of a minute, and Sagan, son of the Earl, could not see where he went. And after that he went on, and he reached Sligach, just at the time old Concobar was setting out with the men of Connacht to avenge the Connacht's hag basket on the hand of Munster. And this time he gave himself the name of Gillard the Care, the bad servant. He joined with the men of Connacht, and they went over to Seanan, westward, into Munster. And there they hunted and drove every creature that could be made travel, cattle and horses and flocks, into one place, till they got the hornless bull of the monster hag and her 2 speckled cows, and old Concobar brought them away to give to the Connacht hag in satisfaction for her basket. But the men of Munster made an attack on them as they were going back, and the Gillard de Care asked old Concobar would he have sooner have the cows driven, or have the Munster men checked, and he said he would sooner have the Munster men checked. So the Gillard de Care turned back on them, and with his bow and 24 arrows, he kept them back till old Concobar and his people were safe, out of their reach in Connacht. But he took some offence then, on account of old Concobar taking the first drink himself when they had come into his house, and not giving it to him that had done so much, and he took his leave, and went on from them in a moment. After that, he went to where old tagged Auxiliae was, and having his old striped clothes and his old shoes as before, and when they asked him what art he had, he said, I am good at tricks, and if you give me 5 marks, I will show you a trick, he said. I will give you that, said Tagged. With that, the stranger put 3 rushes on the palm of his hand. I will blow away the middle rush now, he said, and the other 2 will stop as they are. So they told him to do that, and he put the tops of his 2 fingers on the 2 outside rushes and blew the middle one away. There is a trick for you now, Tagged Auxiliae, he said. By my word, that is not a bad trick, said Auxiliae, but one of his men said that there may be no good luck with him that did it. And give me half of that money now, Tagged, and I will do the same trick for you myself. I will give you the half of what I got if you will do it, said the stranger. So the other put the rushes on his hand. But if he did, when he tried to do the trick, his 2 fingertips went through the palm of his hand. Ah, Bob, said the stranger, that is not the way I did the trick. But as you have lost the money, he said, I will heal you again. I can do another trick for you, he said. I could wag the ear on one side of my head, and the ear on the other side would stay still. I can do that. Dolt, then, said Celiac. So the man of tricks took hold of one of his ears and wagged it up and down. This is a good trick indeed, said Celiac. I will show you another one now, he said. With that he took from his bag a thread of silk, and gave a cast of it up into the air, and it was made fast to a cloud. Then he took a hare out of the same bag, and it ran up the thread. And then he took out a little dog, and laid it on after the hare, and it followed, yelping on its track. And after that again he brought out a little serving boy, and bade him to follow dog and hare up the thread. Then out of another bag he had with him he brought out a beautiful, well-dressed young woman, and bade her to follow after the hound and the boy, and to take care and not to let them be torn, the hare be torn by the dog. She went up then quickly after them, and it was a delight to old Tad O'Celier to be looking at them, and to be listening to the sound of the hunt going on in the air. All was quiet then for a long time, and then the man of tricks said, I am afraid there is some bad work going on up there. What is that? Said O'Celier. I am thinking, said he, the hound might be eating the hare, and the serving boy courting the girl. It is likely enough they are, said O'Celier. With that the stranger drew in the thread, and it is what he found, the boy making love to the girl, and the hound chewing the bones of the hare. There was great anger on the man of tricks when he saw that, and he took his sword and struck off the head of the boy. I do not like a thing of that sort to be done in my presence, said Tagged O'Celier. If it did not please you, I can set it all right again, said the stranger. And with that he took up the head and made a cast of it at the body, and it joined to it, and the young man stood up. But if he did, his face was turned backwards. It would be better for him to be dead than to be living like that, said O'Celier. And when the man of tricks heard that, he took hold of the boy and twisted his head straight, and he was as well as before. And with that the man of tricks vanished, and no one saw where he had gone. That is the way Manannan used to be going around Ireland, doing tricks and wonders, and no one could keep him in any place, and if he was put on a gallows itself, he would be found safe in the house after. And some other man on the gallows in his place. He did no harm, and those that would be put to death by him, he would bring them to life again with a herb out of his bag. And all the food he would use would be a vessel of sour milk and a few crab apples, and there was never any music sweeter than the music he used to be playing. And that's where we're going to wrap up this particular reading. I hope I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion, because I didn't have a whole lot to say, right? I didn't have to talk about any of my unconventional beliefs. I didn't have to do any of that. So if you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment if you agree or disagree. If you have something to add, please feel free in the comments down below. As long as it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If there is another work you would like to see me read, as we are doing here, drop that in the comments as well. If you really like what I'm doing, hit me with the super thanks. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit's Take. Peace.